taking a look at some buses there. Some MTA buses, Steve.
Looks good to me.
Out and about in Nashville. What, you know, as we're watching some of these buses drive around the city here, what is the biggest problem or biggest challenge you guys face with getting people onto buses?
Sure. Well, I think it absolutely is the service model. It's things we talked about, frequency, how quickly it goes. One of the things we're dealing with, and I think one of the biggest challenges we're going to have to face as a city, is obviously that the MTA system is really centered around downtown Nashville. And as we're getting more jobs, more development, more construction, more events, more street closures, it's getting tougher and tougher to manage that downtown street space. So frankly, I think it's going to be one of the early on challenges that the next mayor is going to face, frankly, not just from transit, but from event organizers, from motorists, from folks living. And we have a lot more people living downtown.
What about, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Is price ever something that keeps people off the buses? I mean, I personally feel like, you know, they're pretty reasonably priced to get around, but is that something you ever hear, that maybe, you know, people are...
Sure, particularly for the lowest income folks. And again, myself, our board of directors, and a lot of community leadership worry the most there, because we literally are the only connection between those folks and economic opportunity or medical care, what have you. So for those folks, without a doubt, it's a challenge. A couple of things that have been done recently in partnership with Metro Nashville Public Schools. Now all public school students have, at the high school and a lot at the middle school level, have access to free transit passes. And this past winter, through the mayor's office, we piloted what we call an extreme weather access card. So a lot of our homeless folks had in their possession a card where when the weather got cold, they could ride a bus for free to get to a homeless shelter.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Of course, we had a couple of those days there this winter where some of you guys had to stop the buses for a little while. Well, I mean, it was a
You come from Boston,
situation.
Chris, so I think you'd agree that winter here is a little easier to take.
Yeah, it is. However, when it gets icy, like
ice is pretty treacherous.
We're a little bit much. I believe we have another caller on line one. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Maybe lost him. It's all right. Let's talk a little bit about rail, light rail. Is there, you know, you have Music City Star. Are there conversations going on in your office about rail, about expanding rail or new rail plans? Or
there are conversations in our office, but probably more important, every public meeting we have, every survey we do, it's very high on people's attention meter. And I know one of the things I always ask, I haven't been in the transit business for quite some time, is if somebody says to me, we really need to do light rail here, we need to do more rail, first thing I ask is, what is it about rail that's attractive to you, you know, over bus? The things I hear over and over again, and again it comes into our service modeling, is it's the dependability of it, it's the visibility of it, it's the simplicity of it. I know where the tracks go, I know where that route is. And it's the fact that, you know, that they can really understand it easily.
Is there any concern with rail in terms of, you know, say you look at Atlanta, Portland, you know, sorry Atlanta, we're picking on you tonight, but you know, you're looking at Atlanta with the MARTA system, and you know, where they kind of put that in after the city had really started to expand and develop, and now it's not that popular, or it's almost looked down upon by some people there in general. People say, oh, poor people take the MARTA, or poor people take the...
Atlanta is an interesting case, and I think you were right for quite a while, but people are really relearning and rediscovering that rail system down there. You're seeing a lot more development around the rail stations. We're even seeing it to a smaller extent, obviously, with the Music City Star. We're working with a developer, Jack Bell, out in Lebanon, doing the Hamilton Springs development, where he's essentially underwriting a good chunk of the cost of a new station to serve multi-use development. We're in an active partnership with the City of Mount Juliet to investigate development around the Mount Juliet station. So I think you're seeing those types of things happen. And the MARTA system, where people say it's unpopular, and yet it carries about 100 million riders a year. So I would love to be that unpopular.
If you build it, they will come. Clearly, with, you know, Music City Star, people are trying to...
If you design it right, build it right, and serve it right, they will come.
I believe we have Matthew on line 2. Again, if you want to join in on the conversation here on News Channel 5 Plus on OpenLine, 615-945. Sorry, I almost just gave out my personal cell phone number. 615-737 plus 615-737 plus. Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Matthew, a professor at Tennessee State.
Okay.
I'm interested in knowing about better connectivity of buses to TSU, especially given the fact that buses tend to get delayed and have a short interval or a long interval during the peak hours for students.
Okay.
So is there a possibility for a connection from Metro Center and more frequent buses that go to North Nashville and throughout North Nashville, actually?
Right.
Specific question there about TSU.
Sure. And TSU is an area we've gotten a lot of interest from, and again, I would encourage the professor and all the folks at TSU to get engaged in the process. We hear about TSU quite a bit. We hear about North Nashville quite a bit. And a lot of the things we're hearing out of those areas are, it's the frequency of service, it's, again, the length of service, the lateness of how late we operate, and frankly, it's also working with the city to improve the environments. Right now, under Mayor Dean's leadership, we're in the midst of what we're calling our 100 Shelter Initiative. We're installing 100 new passenger waiting shelters throughout the system, and that effort started in North Nashville, and there are a good number going up. But there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and we think the best way to get that going is to get the neighborhood, get TSU involved in telling, okay, what will work, and how do we get it to work better?
What do you guys think is the way to get people, new riders on? I mean, we were talking a little bit about you know, the line that was running down for New Year's Eve up and down West End. I will be completely honest with you, and don't judge me for this. That was the first time I'd ever been on an MTA bus. It was when I took that bus
on you, Chris.
From West End downtown to go see the fireworks for New Year's Eve. So how do you lure in those kinds of people who maybe have not been on a bus or don't, you know, use it that frequently to start or to make it more appealing? I mean, what's the challenge there?
I actually think you really helped answer the question for me. First, it's implicit in our service design, how we deliver. Make it simple. And that's what we're hearing, frankly, in our public engagement from a lot of folks who don't currently ride. If I don't understand it, I don't care how often it runs, I don't care how fast it is, I won't get on it because I don't know how to do it. The second is, I think, because Nashville is such a celebration city. We see 4th of July fireworks, we see New Year's Eve, we see CMA week, where we're literally having hundreds of thousands of people converge on downtown, and I think we can use those types of events to really attract a different rider group. Your experience is pretty common. I've heard from an awful lot of people who've told me, look, I never ride your system, except I did on 4th of July. And
they probably loved it. I mean, it was a perfect it was a great option in terms of getting down.
I got to pick on the Music City Star again. We got to the point for New Year's Eve, for 4th of July, we have to sell tickets for the train in advance because we were actually overrun with customers. So if you have a situation where driving is, frankly, let's be honest, if driving is easy, that's what most of us are going to do if we have that choice. But we're running into an awful lot more situations in Nashville where it's not as easy as it used to be. And if we can provide that simple, frequent, fast, competitive product, and I think you will see people move over.
It is a hot topic for sure. I mean, throughout the city as it grows. How do people get downtown? How do people get out of downtown? How do they get in and out of the city quickly? You know, and I think if you don't answer these questions in the right way, then the city starts to become unattractive.
Right.
And you know, it's going to become a lot different than the way it is right now. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.